Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I promised I would be here, and so I am. And so is Brian, and a new panelist, Peter, who is a sometimes chatter, who has just obviously come out of his shell because he's seen enough. We've all pretty well seen enough. I wanted to start out the program kind of as a continuation of yesterday's halftime show, which had a lot of viewers. I'm sure I would have gotten a ton of viewers had I done a post-game show because everybody was in a very surly mood. And thank you, Brett. I've had a few people. The J103 button story will be part of the fabric of this, but I want to get into the stuff that I wanted to hit first that I think will lead up to that story. One of the things that I'm seeing and been talking about is that the head coach seems, for whatever reason, to be stuck. He seems to have reached a point where he has no more answers. In his press conference today, he was asked if he has considered turning offensive play calling duties over to Alex Van Pelt. Here is what he said. We talk about a lot of things every single week. I am comfortable with the communications that go on throughout the week and on game day. The offensive staff is outstanding, especially offensive line coach Bill Callahan and Alex throughout the game. So I am comfortable with how we are doing it right now. We just have to be better. I have to be better. That is the truth. We just have to find ways to stay on the field and get sevens when we are down there in the red zone. All right? That's where I want to start this program, because the way I ended halftime was very simple. Either he gives up play calling, or I, if I owned the team, would fire him. All right? So as far as I'm concerned, I will now refer to him as ex-head coach Kevin Stefanski. And some people never learn. They will keep doing the same thing over and over and over with the same ill results. And they will just go, yep, it's on me, and then just keep repeating the mistake over and over. And this is where the J103 buttons come in. I'm 27 years old. I take a job managing a radio station, WDXI AM and J103 FM in Jackson, Tennessee. I come to town. The first thing I hear when I drive into town is garble on what was supposed to be 103.1 FM. Garble. Couldn't even understand what the hell song was playing. It's exactly what it sounded like. And so I got a hold of the people at the office. I go, what the hell am I listening to? And they said, who in the hell are you? I come into the radio station. I said, I am the new general manager of the radio station. What in the fuck's wrong with the signal? The signal had been destroyed, basically. We were utilizing audio processing called an Optimod, and the previous program director who quit decided he was going to destroy the settings on the thing and lock the box and throw the key away. I said, how long is it? No, listen to this. I said, how long has this been going on? They said about three days. I said, 3 fucking days. Get somebody out here and cut off the goddamn lock. Fortunately, I'd worked with Optimods before, and so we got in and, ripped off the lock.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I can't make this shit up, man. And
that's straight out of WKRP.
I know, man. And so, I reset the damn Optimod so that it sounds really good. And I realized that there was only one thing worse than the fact that somebody had done that and that the signal was garbled, is that nobody was complaining about it because nobody was listening. It's not, the phone should have been ringing off the hook. Like, what's wrong with your signal? Why does it sound like... But nobody was calling. And at that point, I realized, Houston, we have a problem. We have a radio station, an FM station that nobody's listening to. So I started looking in my first 2 weeks, 3 weeks around the city and getting to see exactly what I was getting involved in. And basically, J103, the FM radio station, was playing real soft adult contemporary music in a marketplace where people were really rednecks. If you could have voted somebody president, it would have been Stevie Ray Vaughan. Okay? I mean, the kind of music they were listening to was ZZ Top. They wanted rock music, and they wanted popular rock music songs. And here, what they were being fed was this horrible air supply. I'm all out of love. What am I without you? And it's like, nobody's listening. So I say to the owners, we got a problem here. Nobody's listening. I said, we can rejuvenate this radio station by putting the proper format in place. And they said, well, you're not here to change the format. You're here to get sales up. I said, okay, fine. So I changed the format without their permission and decided that the station had to be what would be termed as a Rock 40 format, which is eliminating urban artists. That meant, sorry, but no Janet Jackson, And we were playing rock songs, but that were on the charts. And so it was very white, not so bright, not so polite. Okay? The owners come into town not realizing that the format of their station has been changed. And they come into the radio station, and I thought they were going to kill me. And instead, they called a staff meeting. I go, I'm going to get my head cut off in front of the entire staff. They come in and they say, we're so happy with what's happening here at the radio station. I'm doing my impression of Bill Glassman, one of the owners. I just wanted to say that my decision to change the format is really paying off. I said, you didn't suggest it. You flipped me shit about it. Well, what he had seen, they'd driven into town and there was a big rock concert. I forget what the fuck it was in Memphis, but an hour down the road. And we had set up a place where people were buying tickets, and they were wrapped around 2 blocks, man. They had never drawn a crowd like this before in their goddamn lives. So all was seemingly well and good until the other brother says to me, and he was cross-eyed. I can't do cross-eyed. And he says, what are you calling the radio station? And I said, well, I want to change the call letters to WRJX, Rox Jackson, okay? And they said, and then there was another set of call letters, and they said, well, we can do the WRJX thing. We can do that. It's like, all right, fine. Then we're good. We're good. He goes, but it has to have a J in it. I go, whatever. It works. The call letter works. It's easy. It's an easy slug line. No problem. The brother comes in the next time he's in town. He's got a box. I mean a box full of J103 lapel pins. Now, again, I can't make this shit up. And he says, I want you to use these in a promotion. I said, well, we're not calling ourselves J103 anymore because that's the old adult contemporary station. Like that. And he says, I want the station called J103. And I want these buttons used, these lapel pins. I said, what fucking listener out there who's listening to ZZ Top and Led Zeppelin and all that shit is wearing a goddamn lapel pin? I went through the paperwork and the files, and I found that these pins had been regurgitated for the past 5 years because he had bought so many of them. Some Chinese company was thrilled with him. I don't know. But the fact was, 5 years he was trying to peddle the idea. It was a lousy idea. It failed every time he tried to do it, but he kept doing it over and over again. That's what J103 buttons mean to me. It's the same shit we're seeing from the Cleveland Browns every week now. That's what I'm seeing. And how do you defend what we're seeing? Baker Mayfield said something that I thought was very interesting today. The last play, offensive play by the Browns. What happened on the 4th down play of the final drive, Baker? Here's Baker's answer. Our only pressure answer was the shallow. So that's asking a lot for David Njoku to run away from Tyus Bowser and break a tackle. Just didn't have an answer. Let me translate that to you. There was no option on a 4th down and 10 to have a guy run more than 10 yards down the field. There was no, in all the progressions, there was no pressure release except a guy who would be 5 yards, 6 yards in front of him that could never get the first down. He steps up to the line, looks, he sees what defense they're in, he hears the play that's called, he cannot audibilize out of it. And I want to say one thing to people who keep asking me, well, I think he is audibilizing. I want to, because I've been watching other football games and watching. How many times have you seen the Browns line up at the line of scrimmage? Baker steps back, yells to each side something. We'll make up something. J103 buttons, J103 buttons. And then all of a sudden, we have a major shift in the backfield. And the running backs go from a running set into a passing set. Okay. How many times have we actually seen that? Over and over on the broadcast, they were showing how they were stacking the box and how we ran into it every time. He can't audibilize. He's not allowed to audibilize any more than Alex Van Pelt is allowed to call the plays, any more than anybody is allowed to do anything except for Kevin Stefanski. That is the problem, people. That's the problem. When an employee designs his own job, and I'd be the first one to admit that when I was 27 and I was young, dumb, and full of cum, I was stupid. And I went out and I changed a format without the owner's permission. But if you do it, at least know what the fuck you're doing. Kevin Stefanski doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Obviously, he doesn't want to give up the reins because that would be an admission. And the second that he has to bring somebody in to call the plays, then his job in his mind is watered down. That's the whole problem here.
And he's incapable of adjusting to 8 and 9 man fronts that stop the zone running scheme or allow Teller to pull around so that they can open some holes in the running game.
Well, here's the problem is that and what he brought up in his press conference, well, we've run against the stack box before successfully. It's like, no. Teams now, and somebody asked earlier, who was it, Brian, the guy, Liberty Bell?
Yeah.
He asked, what what is the deal here with, we can't get guys downfield and open and all this? It all falls into one big problem. Teams have found the recipe to stop the Cleveland Browns. And you don't have to be great. You can be the Lions. You can be, just look at the last several games that we've played. You could be anybody and just run the same thing because he's going to do the same thing over and over again. That's who Kevin Stefanski is. He's feeding us J103 buttons. Go ahead.
And as much as I've bagged on Joe Woos for his piss poor defense, they've been very stout. To allow only 16 points against the Ravens, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, but I'll tell you something else. The next game they play, they'll give up like 34 or 40. That's been an ongoing thing too. And to say that the Ravens were bad in this game is an understatement. I mean, they too, you can see how scheming. Do you think that Joe Woods came up with this scheme on his own? He was doing the same thing that other teams were doing, which was running, zone blitzes. And when Jackson would hold on to the ball and keep it and run down the field, he took a few hits. He got some yardage, but not big chunks of yardage. And the thing that's amazing about the way this thing goes is that the two big throws that he made were Hail Marys. They were the exact same thing that Pat Mahomes did to us in week 1. Do you remember?
Yeah.
He throws the ball up in the air as high as he can, and Ronnie Harrison doesn't know where in the fuck the ball is because he's not looking at the ball, right? And he lets Andrews, the guy who beats us every time, get position on him. He interferes with him, and he still didn't stop him from catching the ball. That was the same exact thing that happened to John Johnson III. You remember the play against Kansas City?
Yeah,
Tyreek Hill
just totally got lost on the field.
And that's exactly what happened to Harrison. And if you look at the touchdown pass that was thrown, he just faded back and just threw it in the middle of the end zone. Now, how is it possible that, again, Andrews was the only one who was looking for the ball, and all of those white jerseys never even took a step for that ball? It was thrown into the middle of the fucking end zone. So, right off the bat, they didn't even deserve the touchdown they got. It was dumb luck and incompetence, but they did nothing the whole game. If we were moving the ball, we throw the ball to Harrison Bryant, who, by the way, now has a high ankle sprain. We won't be seeing him again anytime soon. Yeah. And we're moving the ball, and then he does the incredible Jarvis Landry play. Again. And this time, it's, he didn't learn his lesson from double pitches. He didn't learn his lesson, Stefanski, from the lucky outcome of the last time they ran the play when he was stopped and he found a crease and ran through it. And for some reason, the defense of the Lions did not respond or react to it, and he scored a touchdown. This time, he wants to turn into Michael Vick. Great, isn't it? You see nothing's there, you run it straight up the middle, you fall to the ground. But Jarvis Landry doesn't want to be a Cleveland Brown anymore. And I don't want him here anymore. To be very honest with you, got to start all over there at the wide receiver position. He's hurt, he's upset, and he's at a point now where he sees his career getting into the later stages. He sees that the win situation ain't going to happen in Cleveland. That we've already turned the corner because of Stefanski. He tried to make an impossible big play, but he's not Lamar Jackson. He's not a quarterback. He stood in the pocket for too long, got stripped. We lose the ball. We score a touchdown in that drive, we win the football game. It's just that simple. Just that simple. And that's exactly right, Brett. what Landry said. If I knew that was going to happen, then I wouldn't call it. No, that was what Stefanski said. Yeah, if you knew. I mean, Jarvis Landry is competitive to a fault, and he thought, I got to make this happen because nobody else is. But what would make him think that? So it's no different for Jarvis Landry if we're trying to run a gadget play. He's in the pocket, nobody's open. Okay, unfortunately the guy who's got the best chance of being open is holding the ball in the backfield, looking for somebody to throw it to. Nobody open. And
a lot of that, I think, has to do with the fact that Mayfield has no mobility left at all.
Yeah, they run him out in the flat like he's a decoy. Yeah, they're going to throw the ball back to Baker. Right. And Cindy, the first drive, absolutely. That ball over the middle was right where it needed to be, and basically DPJ batted it down, just like he was a defender. He didn't catch it. None of these receivers are worth shit.
Yeah, we even had Bradley out there.
Yeah,
Jamarcus Bradley.
Jamarcus Bradley. Yeah. After he caught the one pass, he looked like a pinball. I mean, he couldn't get it. He couldn't spin and turn straight. He was trying to run backwards. I don't know what it was. It was like a glitch in a video game.
Keep hitting circle. Just keep hitting circle.
Yeah, it's like the vibrating football game. Do you remember that when we were kids?
Yeah.
With the little felt football?
Yeah.
It was a vibrating football field.
My dad had purchased extra players, and we had like 11 of the teams.
Oh, wow. That must have been exciting.
Yeah.
Wish I could have been over to your house.
We had Giants and Vikings and Steelers and Browns and all kinds of fucking teams. So
you know what I think? I really believe that. I mean, and they're going around in circles. I mean, because holy shit, my quarterback's epileptic. I mean, really fucked up. I mean, totally fucked up. But I'm convinced that the reason they sold so many of them is that late at night, mom sat on it. I'm convinced. There's a reason for everything if you're sick enough and you think long and hard enough about it. So right off the bat, we have two big problems. One, we have receivers who are obviously not able to get off the line of scrimmage, and our receivers can't do what other receivers do, which, how come our guys can't come back to the ball? I mean, if Baker threw it up in the air like that, nobody would be there. They run their patterns and they stop. I don't know where we found these people. God, I sound like Seinfeld. Who are these people?
Who are these people?
Yeah, god damn.
No soup for you.
And Hooper is unbelievably bad.
Waste of money.
$40 million to bat passes down.
And drop it on the last drive too, when we needed it.
Well, I mean, Landry dropped the pass on the sideline. That was a first down pass. Just didn't catch it. And and what the hell has Felton done for us? Well, he did really well. One game, made a great touchdown run on a nothing pass, and he was rewarded by never playing again. Basically, yeah, we could walk away from this saying, why is he in there, and what happened to Hunt? Now, what he's saying, what Stefanski said is, the last drive of the game, his leg was stiff. Well, then where was Chubb as an added receiver? I don't know. I don't know, but I'm happy with the communication. What, the 12 men on the field multiple times? Is that the communication you're happy with, Kevin?
Yeah. And they even called a timeout. He even called a timeout to avoid the fucking penalty the first time.
I know. I mean, It is,
and then they do it again. Like,
obviously, there is a systemic problem. And what I think is the team played so well last year because there were no fans in the stadium and no noise. And that's why Baker's going like this when he's in Cleveland. Shut up! I'm trying to make things like last year. You know.
And to bring it back to the Felton thing, like you said on the halftime show yesterday, they didn't use Chase at all. And then Chase, they gave him the field goal, he misses. And then we don't use Felton. We throw a pass to him and he drops it.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the next man up, philosophy, but there's no rhyme or reason why he's the next man up. I mean, you had Chubb and you had Hunt. Why was he the guy who has to make that play on third down that was a critical first down that he missed? And the answer is, it's not just next man up. It's just whenever Kevin Stefanski points at you and says, you're out there. And then 13 guys go out on the field saying, I thought he pointed at me. Yeah, it's just fucked up. And again, Mark Ross is saying here that Rashard Higgins is a thing of the past. He's done. The second that he sided with OBJ, that was over with, and he was inactive. So kind of like Jack Conklin is inactive now. He's been deactivated by God.
Oh, Keith, we are heaping shovelfuls of criticism on Kevin Stefanski for that. So,
yeah. I mean, this was the story of Freddie Kitchens. This was the ridiculous, trick plays, the draw it up in the dirt, and the things that make no sense, and the lack of discipline on the team, and
the pre-snap penalties.
Yeah, it's
inexplicable pre-snap penalties.
And they were putting things up and saying, late hits on the quarterback, 0 in 2025 this year. There is no discipline. And, Ronnie Harrison got away with in the open field pulling a guy's face mask that would have given them another first down. He's just bad. I mean, he just, and he didn't have to do it. It was right in the middle of the field. It's like somebody's paid him to do it. There's no discipline on the team whatsoever. And the thing that bothered me about the broadcast of the game, and I will say that it's unfortunate, and I've told the story many a time, so I'm not going to get into repeat stories, but as the twig is bent, so grows the tree. And if you ever saw somebody raise their child the wrong way, you'll know what I mean. A child who takes verbal abuse growing up, you can see in their demeanor and how they, when somebody's literally cowed down and has just been made fun of. And when a father publicly obliterates his son in public, then the neighborhood kids feel they're next in line to do the same thing. And I've seen it over and over again. The network took a cheap shot. The Cleveland Browns came damn close to beating the Kansas City Chiefs last year in the playoffs and won a playoff game and had a good season. And they've been, despite all mismanagement, have actually been in the race for more than half of the way through the season. They ran an animation about, it was a medieval themed computer animation. I don't know if you saw this. Showing each of the AFC North teams and the number of times that they had won the division. It was like since 2000 or something, since 2002, something like that. And it was like Pittsburgh 9, the Ravens 6, the Bengals 4, the Browns 0. And the animation that represented the Browns had a jester's hat on, doing a stupid dance of celebration with a big 0 jersey And like I told you when I watched the Lions playing the Bears and the announcers just taking random pot shots and cheap shots at the organizations, we are the bastard children and always will be. And it's always doubly, triply hard to overcome these perceptions. Last year did nothing to stop the perceptions. They got on us this year by saying, well, we were overrated. And, they do whatever they can to bring the morale of the team down and to make fun. They figure, well, a lot of people listening and watching this program, at 8:20 on a Sunday night, some are Cleveland fans, some are Baltimore fans, and some just want Baker Mayfield to lose because we want him to lose. And if that's what happens, we're going to really roll out the criticism. That's what they do. Browns is Browns. And that, when it gets repeated often enough and often enough, and it's really one of the reasons why it bothers me about what people think about Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. Baker Mayfield did everything he could to try to overcome that image. And now they're succumbing to it all over again.
Well, and right now he's just way too injured to fucking really be anything close to effective.
So tell me, what is Lamar Jackson's excuse? 4 interceptions, okay? He played like horse shit. And he makes he throws the ball up in the air when he's leaning backwards, getting sacked, and our guy Harrison fucks up and it just interferes blatantly with the receiver. And they're like, oh, only the way that Lamar Jackson could do it. And it's like, no, that's not true.
Just
He
like
threw it
the
up in the
Patrick
fucking
Mahomes
air.
play.
Huh?
Just like the Patrick Mahomes play earlier.
Exactly. And you look at what happened to Patrick Mahomes in the weeks after the Browns game and and how many interceptions he threw. That's how you throw interceptions. And Lamar Jackson, listen what I'm saying, will never win a Super Bowl because of it. Never, never, never. Because if he can't get the ground game going, you see what he is. The Browns schemed him. The Browns defense, the one we've been ridiculing all year long, did to them basically what Miami did to them. Same thing. They scored 10 points against the Dolphins, and they would have scored 9 points against us. If not for, again, an atrocious piece of defense that allowed a guy to walk back to a football. And why nobody was in the middle of the end zone, I don't have an idea why our guys can't find the football.
And I think on that play, on the replay they were kind of showing, I think they were playing man-to-man. And Delpit, who was subbed in because Ronnie Harrison not looking for the ball, the play before with the Andrews, I think Delpit was the man covering Andrews. So when Lamar was scrambling, I don't know if he gave up or just like, oh, they'll get him. So then Andrews kind of just drifted to the middle of the field and Lamar found him and then just passed it. I don't know if it would have been different with Harrison, but I think that's what happened.
It was a back foot throw that was Andrews caught in the end zone, and nobody was covering him. He just literally walked back to the ball. And it was like the Red Sea parted, and there were Browns jerseys in the fringes of the picture, and he just stood there and caught it, basically. CO Dad, you can throw 20 interceptions in a game, but if your team wins, nobody cares. This is the first time in NFL history that a quarterback has thrown 4 interceptions in one game and won. It was 38.
0 for 37.
Yeah, and it would have been 0 for 38 if it had, but no, that's not the way it happens. Not for the court jesters. And yeah, nobody will complain about Lamar Jackson. The fact of the matter is, he's looked rotten in a number of games this year. But people are asking me why. Why does this happen? It's because the scheme. I mean, John Harbaugh is not really a very imaginative guy. Offensively, him and Greg Roman are not very creative. They do what they do. And they have an amazing athletic talent who plays quarterback. But he ain't the same. I'm telling you, he's easier to hit now. And he's getting beat up. And all these illnesses are not illnesses. They're bumps and bruises, and they're trying to figure out their way through the end of the season. Just as the Steelers trying to find their way, and the Browns are trying to find their way. This is a Cincinnati and Baltimore season. We will lose again to the Ravens, and we will lose to the Bengals. We don't have the ability to put up points to compete with the way the Bengals are playing right now. And I know what we did to them before. But that's when we actually converted turnovers into points. We can't even do that anymore.
And the whole team was pissed off.
Yeah, you'd be pissed off too. Keep giving the ball.
But now there's a malaise over the entire team. So there's no edge, there's no nothing to these guys. Yeah. And Keith, it's not that AVP isn't the answer. It's that he's not even being given a chance. You're going to have to pry it from my cold, dead hands.
That's exactly right, Mr. Heston. I mean, that is who we have as head coach. Moses on the big screen. We have a guy who refuses to relinquish something that he's not good at, or that, think of yourself being in a box, you know? And I used to talk to people about this when you're in a box, you can't see outside the box. There are people, that's what the basis of therapy is all about. Person outside the box might be more able to see your situation clearly outside of the box than you, who are stuck in and you can't look out. Stefanski's stuck in a box right now. The idea of having somebody else call the plays is really to have a meeting with your offensive players, to have a meeting with your quarterback and say, what's working, what's not working, what can we get done here? We got a rest of the season to finish, regardless of what happens by the end of the year and between seasons. We got a season to finish. We can't keep playing like we're playing. So what do we need to do? And that's how Freddie Kitchens got a head coaching job. He was able to pick plays better than the offensive coordinator, Todd Haley. And the reason was...
Well, he surveyed all of the offensive
players. He talked to them. Freddie had no idea.
And had them, each guy had to pick their 3 favorite plays, running and passing, and then he just put them all into a big pile, and whichever one was the most popular, those are the plays he ran.
And, there's something good to be said about listening to people, and that the buck stops here. I mean, Harry Truman, I know my history, and the buck stops here, right on the White House desk, right? But the fact of the matter is that is not, or nor was it ever meant to be, an authoritarian discussion or comment. The buck stops here means I'm responsible and it's up to me to do something about it. It doesn't mean I'm going to glom on to all the decision making and do it all myself. That's not what the buck stops here means. And somebody has to remind Stefanski that is a total misinterpretation of what it means. You need to talk with the players and find out. You got to talk to Baker, and you got to have an honest conversation with him and say, all right, what throws can you make and what throws can't you make? And if in that discussion, nothing over 30 yards comes out, then you have to play Case Keenum. I mean, there comes a point where you have to communicate with your people and figure out what is it that we do best. And it can't be running against, 7 men in the box. And the worst part of it is we line up our tight ends on one side of the field with the 3 tight end set, and you know which way we're going to run it. So they just went ahead and stacked their players over there. And we saw it pre-snap so many times during the game, and it was shown from the far end zone cameras. You could see it in front of you, and they had the players numbered. And that's what Baker Mayfield was staring at, and he not allowed to audibilize out of the play. So it's no wonder we end up with 1 yard and nothing.
Or a -3 yard run.
That's right. That's the reason why it happens.
Or the middle linebacker reading the play and blowing it up in the backfield, almost tackling Mayfield.
Yeah, that play where Queen came in, I mean, he read that, man, like a child reading a comic book. You know.
Take that, Dr. Doom.
And, you know, Ted, you're right. It is no different than Kim Jong-un. Whether he knows what the fuck he's talking about or not doesn't matter. He's the man, and you better not fuck up, or else you're going to get your ass slammed. And Rashard Higgins got his ass slammed. He controls who plays, who's active, and who's deactivated. He controls everything. And that's why we're 6-6 and we're just mediocre. Because he does not have... He knows how to beat the drum of this accountability thing, or beat the drum of being consistent. But, you know, his idea of being creative is just to run a play that has no... He takes something that's on the far edge of the playbook, and instead of integrating things that are not completely on the fringe, but in here, he grabs all the way out here. And that's what Kitchens used to do. And that's the sign of desperation.
And they're plays that aren't practiced during the week.
Obviously not. I mean, even you don't want to know how obvious it is. Even Cleveland.com, they weren't going to go after Baker. Here's Doug Lesmarise. Is that
Lesmarise?
Is that what Lesmarise? Is that what we're calling him this week? All right. The headline: the Cleveland Browns don't look well coached, and Kevin Stefanski needs to give up play calling. That's the headline. You know.
He also said that on their little video conference post game.
Yep, and here's Terry Pluto. Kevin Stefanski is right. A part of the Browns' problem is coaching. Oh, God, I'm going to come. Oh, sorry. And get that in there for Terry Pluto. Myles Garrett is congratulating Lamar Jackson after he throws a touchdown pass. They asked him why. He goes, because I have sportsmanship, said the man who ripped the head off of Mason Rudolph. I'm a sportsman. You know, that's what I do. I go up to the quarterback after he makes a play when our guys fall asleep in the end zone, and I pat him on the head and tell him, good job. And it's like, you know something? Have sportsmanship off the fucking field after the game. If you want to go out and have a drink with the guy after the game, do it. I don't want to see that shit. Neither does any other player want to see that shit. There is no place in this game of football for that. When you're out on that field, he's the enemy. Sorry.
You can add that to Garrett's list, too, along with the Halloween costume and all the other stuff he's been doing, too.
But, you know, I don't mind. I mean, aiding and abetting the enemy, it seems to me, that's one of the reasons why you get thrown out of the military. And, you know, why would you say, hey, great play, man, great play, Lamar? It was a lousy play by us. We let something happen that should never have happened. And, yeah, he took advantage of throwing the ball off his back foot from 30 yards away in the end zone and got away with it. Just like the Chiefs got away with it and Mahomes got away with it against us and Tyreek Hill. Same thing.
Ron, that will be the trick play where Baker Mayfield's head gets spun around literally like an owl 360 degrees.
Yeah,
That's when
Conklin's,
you're going to see that. That's when you'll see Case Keenum finally.
and Conklin's now gone with a torn patella, and I think it's time for the Browns got to find a right tackle because it sure as hell isn't Hance. But Conklin comes back from one thing and it's another, and I told you that his history when he was playing in Jacksonville, he had a history.
Is Hubbard on injured reserve?
Yeah, he's gone. So, the fact of the matter is that a guy like Conklin has been hurt so many times, there isn't a part of his body that hasn't been hurt. And it's sad to say that that's the way it,
And I'm not trying to do a hindsight 2020, but me personally, I was never really a fan of the move. And I think it's more so just like Andrew Berry. A lot of his decisions are kind of coming back to bite us, starting with like the wide receiver thing with obviously Schwartz, who in my opinion is like a number 4, and the whole OBJ thing, which they had the reports coming out that he wanted to be in LA, and you knew in the offseason that he wanted to be traded and he was asking to be traded, and you didn't do that. And then the Hooper thing, which I don't like, for $10 million, and I think kind of a lot of the decisions he's made are kind of coming back to bite us because we have no weapons, and I honestly don't see a way out of it.
Pete, you can't trade an injured player. That's in the CBA.
No, you're right, but
so they had to wait until he was completely evaluated before they could do anything. And then,
you're talking okay.
And then, and then when Beckham's showing up hurt, well, now he's damaged goods. Now you're going to get a 6th or a 7th round when you gave up a 1st round to get him.
Well, here's what the Browns have to do now, and it's pretty well obvious. Schwartz needs to be cut because he's not an NFL player. And we've all seen he's not a special teams player. He can't return kicks, can't run a pattern, can't go over the middle, and he's frail. He was injury prone when he played in Auburn. So that is done for. Jarvis Landry turned 29, and he's 29 going on 34. His body is beaten up.
I'd say more like 38. With the
he really looks beat up. And, fine, you've got him for however much longer you have him. He doesn't want to be there. If it were me, I would trade him. Let him have a chance to win someplace that can use somebody of his skill level rather than wasting it here. I would go after as many picks as I can get my hands on and get young wide receivers who are fast but more skilled than Anthony Schwartz, obviously. I get rid of Hooper. Hooper, on the tight end front, this 3 tight end system, there isn't a one of them. I mean, the touchdown catch by Njoku could have been turned around and called incomplete. He had the ball, his hands under the ground, but the one angle showed that the ball did hit his hand and the ground at the same time. That's called a trap, where I come from. So there's no tight end here that is a dominant tight end like other teams have. I mean, Harrison Bryant never took the next step. Njoku has inconsistent hands. And Hooper has been a $40 million waste. You tell me how great your running game is, but Kareem Hunt only got 7 touches the entire game. I thought the whole idea was he was going to bring the fire.
It seemed like he didn't play in the first half either. I barely remember him.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's going to bring the fire. You know who showed up to the game? Fucking Smokey the Bear. Smokey the Bear shows up for the game and goes, "Where's the fucking fire?" Then he looks at Stefanski and says, "Only you can prevent this fire."
More like Fire Marshal Bill.
Yeah. Unbelievable. I mean, 7 touches for Kareem Hunt. Not a single catch. Targeted once with a pass. That's unbelievable. It's just... Lamar Jackson had a 46.5 passer rating. Baker was 79.4. He rushed 15 times for 68 yards. And for him, that's not good.
No, he's used to cracking 100 yards.
Yeah. So...
And running for a high average.
Yeah. And that's a big part of what he does. So, you know, to me, this isn't that hard to figure out. And I know that I've told you that the owner of the team, we don't want him in the picture because, I mean, every time they show him on camera, he's got that beet red face. He looks like literally somebody who's just swindled somebody. You don't want him in the picture, but at the same time, somebody...
Actually, he looks, to me, he looks more like a skinny Tip O'Neill.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. You know, somebody's got to rein in Stefanski because Stefanski thinks he's at the top of the pyramid, and that's not the way it works. There's supposed to be communication and delegation responsibilities, and if it's not happening, somebody's got to tell him. Somebody's got to put their foot down on Stefanski. And if nobody's willing to do that, this is what we're going to get every week. It doesn't matter. Teams have figured out how to stop what we have, and we got nobody. We got nobody on the practice squad who's a wide receiver. How is that possible? How is it possible? We got nobody to bring up. Nobody. Nobodies whatsoever. I can't figure. It's a frustration. The Vikings, Dalvin Cook has a dislocated shoulder. He's out for the immediate future.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah, Tony's again slashing his throat.
No, he was chuckling about it.
Well, he says he's chuckling about it, but inside he's dying. Yeah, it's hard to go through now a 17-game schedule. It's dreadful when you had such high hopes, man, and now it's like dreadful week after week. You don't look forward to the game. You start looking at and you see fucking Stefanski's face, and I really do. I just want to punch him in his Ivy League face. I really do. A little snot, little stuck-up snot. Don't have room for your little trimmed beard. Be a man. Being a man isn't like, well, I got to get better. It's actually delegating to people who are better at what they do than you are. That's what it is. I always said I played tennis and I was a singles player when I started out playing. When my physicality went to hell because of arthritis in my knees and my back, I had to take on doubles because I couldn't cover the whole court the way that I used to. And I wasn't competitive in singles. And you know what I realized about doubles? It doesn't matter how good you are. It matters, how do you make your partner look good? How do you put your partner in a situation where what he does well, he gets to do? It became a mental process for me. And it's like I evolved from being this selfish singles player to being an assist guy. This guy volleys really well. If I hit a ball low at the feet of the opponent, they'll pop it up and he'll put it away because that's what he does, by golly. That's what we need more of. We need more true teamwork, not amongst the players. It's delegation for the coaches. If you trust them, then you must listen to them in order to improve. There are things that people can do better than Kevin Stefanski. He's got to realize that. Another thing before we get out of here, I like to bring up things that I point out many, many, many years ago. All right. Michael Porter Jr., who plays for the Denver Nuggets, he had back surgery, if you remember, prior to the 2018 NBA draft when everybody had him high. And I told people I would never draft somebody who had back surgery prior to an NBA draft when he was 19 years old. No way. Well, he made a fool of me now, didn't he? Michael Porter hung in for the requisite 5 years, and he signed a 5-year, $172 million max contract just in September. He claims
and then promptly announces his retirement the next day.
Well, yeah, listen, he goes, he claims he's been searching for a non-surgical option since injuring his back on November 6th, but all the opinions landed on surgery. So now he's going back in for a second back surgery, $172 million richer. Good for him. I'm thrilled for him. But sometimes you got to have a little bit of understanding of what you're taking on when you draft a guy when he's 19 and he's already had back surgery. And just like when you get free agents who are offensive linemen who have a career of missing a ton of games, you have to think that it's going to continue on. I'll put it even better. Here's what Tiger Woods said. And Tiger Woods is back to hitting some golf balls after God only knows what he went through and why he went through it. We still don't know. His quote, "I don't have to compete and play against the best players in the world to have a great life. After my back fusion, I had to climb Mount Everest one more time. I had to do it. And I did it. This time around, I don't think I'll have the body to climb Mount Everest, and that's okay. I can still participate in golf. I can still, if my leg gets okay, I can still click off a tournament here or there. But as far as climbing the mountain again and getting all the way to the top, that's not a realistic expectation of me." We come to grips with things. I chose to stop playing tennis, and the reason I stopped was the doubles was crippling me. But I came back from a knee replacement, and they said, you're not going to be very good when you come back from that. And I was beating, along with my partner, guys who were 29, 35, 40 years old, guys who were 30 years younger than me, beating them. You go out on a high note and you realize sometimes you got to go out on a high note. Other times you just have to admit that maybe your partner on the court knows something and sees something that you don't, and you've got to be flexible. So, already did that, Upstate Pickers. You'll have to go back to the archive to listen for the J103 button story. I understand some people can't make it on time to the show because they're working and doing whatever. So that's why we archive the program. So I'll finish out by saying this. 500 is 500. If you're the Browns, it sucks. If you're the Cavaliers, it's wonderful. And Cavaliers had lost 5 in a row, and then they won. They beat a team who's 4-17. Believe me, the Orlando Magic are not a good basketball team. It wasn't the most impressive win. They should have won by 20 plus points. But the fact of the matter was, they'd lost 5 in a row without Evan Mobley, their young rookie. And when he came back, they won. And he came back, scored 13 points. He had himself 9 rebounds and 4 blocked shots. Watch this young kid play. He plays the game right. He's not yet anywhere near what he's going to be. Not as accurate from distance. He needs to put on more upper body strength to go up, down, low. He's got to work on that separation shot, the fadeaway. But you look at his defensive instincts, guarding people in isolation. He has such long arms. He has the gift of Bill Russell, the gift of guys who were brilliant defensive players. He blocks shots and they stay in the court. He alters shots from people coming into the paint. We're playing the Dallas Mavericks, who are 10-8 in Dallas tonight. I'm not saying the Cavaliers are going to win. Cavaliers are still short, a 3. We don't have the necessary scoring forward. Kevin Love's legs are gone. His back is gone. Isaac Okoro was a bad pick at number 5 in the overall draft. He was a bad pick. He can't shoot. And, he can play some defense, but from the number 5 pick, wide open threes, he can't drain them. We do need a 3 who can put the ball in the hoop. But the amazing thing is that when we are at relatively full strength, and that means that we have Markkanen, our 7-footer, who sometimes he can shoot the 3, sometimes he can't. Not a real tough inside player, but he has length. You've got Jared Allen, who's played lights out. You've got Evan Mobley. You've got 3 7-footers on the floor. And it's exciting because teams, if they break down and drive down the lane, they have to put the ball over some people who are mighty long. And we don't miss Colin Sexton. The one who everyone said, oh, Colin Sexton, you got to re-sign him to a max deal, was a one-way player. He's a guy who can shoot and score the basketball, but he's a me-first guy. And now you're seeing what a real point guard does, because we have 2 of them. We have Ricky Rubio, who knows how to pass the ball. He's shot the ball way better than he's going to in the last couple of games. That's kind of gone away. But we have Darius Garland, who is an honest-to-God walking 20-point-a-night guy and a 10-assist guy, and he's doing it with players who really aren't that good shooters. We have some good young players on the team. We don't have much depth. Dylan Windler has too slow a release to really get his 3-point shot off in the NBA. He'd be a very good European player. So maybe David Black can pick him up. The Cavaliers are fun to watch because it takes me back to the old Lenny Wilkens style of basketball, reminding us why there are 5 men on the floor and not just one. The world and the idea of the ISO took over the NBA and made people forget that there are 5 men. The old saying, the ball's got energy. When it's shared, the ball's got energy. And these guys whip the ball around the perimeter, get the ball into the paint. They throw off lob passes that result in dunks. It's a fun show to watch. So I'll take 500 from the Cavaliers if they can maintain. They're a fourth of the way through the season. If they can maintain, and it was the hardest part of the schedule, if we got to play teams like Dallas tonight who are 10-8. We got to play other 500 or close to 500 teams and beat them. We got to prove that we can do that. We end up around 500. We might be in the play-in in at the postseason. I'm not saying that we're going to go anywhere, but it gives us an opportunity to perhaps trade off some of this other stuff and get that 3 that we need. Cavaliers are fun to watch. They're on at 8:30 tonight. And I urge you, all Browns fans, I know that you're diehard Browns and this time of the year it's all football. Give the Cavaliers at least a chance and watch them because it's entertaining. They work hard. They scrap for every ball. They're not that good, but they're making life hard on teams because they're all on the same page. And that's really nice to see. That's it for me. Peter, you're welcome on the show anytime. Anytime.
All right.
Yeah, we love to have people. Yeah, we love having people on the show. And Brian, thanks as always for showing up. And I know that The other guys who normally would show up were probably so fed up with the Browns they didn't want to even have to talk about it again. But we will be back on Friday, and we'll be talking about the Cavaliers because there's nothing to talk about with the Browns. And, I'm going to start getting into some of that more in depth. They're fun to watch, and it's entertaining. That's what sports are supposed to be. I'll be with you again Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads.
Enjoy the replay, Key.
Yes, Key, enjoy the replay.